I'll say that.
Next, we'll have the clerk read the roll call.
Dale Ames,
Present.
Kelly Carroll,
Here.
Harold Wagner, Harold Jorgensen,
Yeah, I'm here.
Barry Wagner,
Here.
Jason Alders,
Here.
Robert Schiller,
Yep.
Jeff Pilon,
Here.
Liz Stockman.
Here.
Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is, the clerk should read the meeting policy.
Please register your attendance on the sign-in sheet on the back table. Copies of the agenda are also available on the back table. The agenda as printed or amended will be followed, so all necessary and needed actions by the Planning and Zoning Commission will be addressed. The agenda may be amended by proper motion. Comments from the floor are welcome during public hearings. Those wishing to comment must register on the floor comment sheet on the back table. When comments from the floor are made, individuals must first be recognized by the chairman. Secondly, clearly state your name and address for the record. And thirdly, allow no more than 3 minutes to state your comments or concerns. Please turn all cell phones off or on silent. Thank you.
Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is, approve or amend tonight's meeting agenda of October 27th, 2020. Somebody'd like to make this motion?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Commissioner Carroll made the motion, Commissioner Jorgensen seconded. Any discussion? See anyone? I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The next thing we're gonna ask for the, approve the planning and zoning meeting minutes of September 22nd, 2020. This is open for motion. Anybody like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Rolls made a motion. Somebody like to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay. Commissioner Schiller seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We'll open the first public hearing and has continued from September 22nd meeting, a subdivision by the Lesticos at 21413 Nowthen Boulevard to subdivide 3 existing lots into 4 parcels for the purpose of distributing land among members, family members, and separating the farmstead from the balance of the land. I make a motion that we continue this. Would somebody like to second it?
I'll second it.
Okay, Commissioner Jorgensen seconded. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that'll be scheduled for, hopefully for our November meeting.
Yes. That's the goal.
Okay, we'll open the next public hearing. It's a continuation from the September 22nd, 2020. To consider amendments to the city code regarding multiple subdivisions of zoning ordinance changes, including but not limited to establishment of a rural residential transaction RRT district with a density and minimum lot size of 2 acres, limited to the settlement area average on the east side of the city, and permits service limitation of 35%, lot buildability, parking, driveway setbacks, and single-family development standards. And now we're just gonna ask our clerk here to give the description and the things that she has on the agenda for us.
Oh, city planner?
Planner.
Yes.
I'm sorry,
Thank
planner.
you, Mr. Chair. So you have in your packets a memo. Actually, 2 memos, one from me and one from the city engineer. Based on city council action at their last meeting, we're mostly discussing lot width, lot depth requirements, and frontage requirements on local roads. We are establishing, or in the process of establishing, the new RRT zoning district. And it was discussed that majority of the council feels no changes to the RRA zoning district are necessary, other than a few minor things like establishing impervious surface area. So what we can do is go one by one through the list of 10 things that were submitted by the developer last month. And there's responses written to each of those, starting on page 2. And we can decide what your formal recommendation will be in all these categories. So item 1 is regarding proposed setback of 40 feet from the property line, which equates to a 73-foot setback from the center line instead of the 100-foot proposed setback from the center line that was proposed for the RRT district. Yeah, what I'm saying or suggesting is that, and the council agreed that the 40-yard setback was too little, too much of a deviation. We were coming down 20 feet from the 120 in the RRA. So the question is, you know, you can look at the graphics too to see how that 100-foot setback kind of lays out. It is nice. It is nice, particularly if you have a longer and skinnier lot. Oh, okay, sorry, I didn't put the graphics on my PowerPoint for the zoning stuff, so my apologies. But you've got the drawing in your packet showing the difference between a 300-foot lot width, a 200-foot lot width, and a 150-foot lot width. And so you kind of got a square lot, almost 300 by 290 for the 300-foot width, which is what we have now in the RRA district. So when we're going down in area to a 2-acre lot, that makes for you know, almost a square lot. So if you go down to a 200-foot lot width, you've got 435 feet of depth. And if you go down to a 150-foot lot width, you've got 580 feet of depth. Now the engineer is, well, by the way, on that graphic, it is showing the proposed 100-foot setback in all situations. So you've got 67 feet between the property line and the front of your house or garage, and a typical parking spot is 18 to 20 feet long, so you can get at least 3, maybe even 4 small vehicles in your driveway. And then you have plenty of room. In all scenarios, something is to think about too is where accessory buildings can go. Do you have enough room to get around the sides and to the rear of the property? I think in all cases, we really do have plenty of side yard. You know, the question is it nicer to have the sheds in the rear yard rather than the side yard, less visible from the local street? They have to be in the side or rear yard. They can't be in the front yard. So the question is 100-foot, you want to stay with that 100-foot setback? You want to go somewhere in between the 40 and the 100? And I think it partially depends upon what you decide for lot width. And there were 2 graphics, concepts 1 and 2, that laid out an example 80-acre parcel, which showed the 300-foot lot depth, or width rather, and the more squared off lots required additional streets. So for the same 80 acres, we got 28 lots at a 300-foot lot depth, lot width, but 5,740 linear feet of road. versus a narrower lot, we gained 3 lots, and we had less linear feet of roadway, so, looking for your opinion on that, and then how that would kind of go hand in hand with the, setback, the front setback.
What's the difference if you go with a 200, foot with minimum width? Does that mean they could have more, would it be more lots?
Well, the
If you-
narrower you go, the deeper
Yeah.
the lots are, right?
Yeah, you can go with more lots with the 150, but what if you went with 200?
Well, it would be somewhere in between the two concepts.
Okay,
You're,
Looking at about 29 or 30 lots.
yeah, that would be an educated guess. So I guess the point is the narrower the lot is, the more flexibility you have. Because you can always make the lots deeper or wider, but if you can go narrower, you have options. Not that you have to go that narrow, but the city engineer is pushing for that for multiple reasons. As far as maintenance goes, less linear feet of roads, assessment reasons later, you have more properties to assess if you have more properties that front on a road. You know, in some ways, the deeper lots are nice, especially if you're gonna be backing up to busier roads like 22 and Highway 47. But you have less side yard, so you are closer to your neighbor. And, you know, we wanna be sure we have enough room for a driveway to get around the side of a house if people put pole sheds in the backyard. And that you have some separation, so I think the front setback is, again, somewhat dependent on, you know, with the 300-foot width and the only 290 feet deep, it makes some sense to push the house forward somewhat, although you don't have to. We've come down 20 feet from the RRA district as it was proposed. But if you have a 400-foot lot depth and 150 feet wide, setting your house back 87 feet from the lot line is no big deal. You're, only a quarter of the way back of your lot, and you still have a lot of rear yard area.
Mr. Chair?
yes, Commissioner Farrell.
Well, let's talk about these things. As far as lot width goes, when speaking of a 2.5 acre lot or a 2 acre lot, I feel that we're gonna get the most variables when we try to narrow the lot up a little bit. They can go wider at any time if that's how they wanna do it for a corner lot. But if we set the minimum at the 300, that pretty much guarantees exactly what it is. You don't get too many options. If you get it down to 200 or 150 lot width, yes, the houses are closer together, but it gives the developer a little more options to change the lot widths to accommodate different style houses, because this location that we're looking to cover, this RRT, has a lot of lower land, and we're gonna need to be able to conform to what the land is gonna need. And for us to sit here and say 300 feet is the minimum, that's gonna be hard down the road. So I feel that, you know, maybe doing something less than either the 200 or even 150, I feel is probably a good way to go. As far as the front setback, I'm swayed both directions to let it come closer, and some reasons to keep it at the 67. So I'd like to hear my committee.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Commissioner.
I really don't have a problem with the 200-foot width. The only, one of the concerns I have with going too narrow, even down to the 150, she has a 62-foot house drawn on here. I mean,
That's a big house.
well, not really when you think a lot of places have 3-car garages that are 36 feet by themselves. Put a house next to it, they're,
30 feet's a typical garage, 30 feet wide.
right. It
So
can be.
62 feet's a big house, or 63 feet, which was he say?
He's got 62,
Yeah, it's a big house.
okay.
Oh, it is a big house.
Well, then my new one must be huge, because I got 96 feet across.
Yeah, that or you
I have
have your garage completely off to the
Well, I
one
have-
end.
Yeah, I have a 36-foot garage, I have
Yep.
a 3-stall garage.
Yeah,
And then my house is kind of long and narrower, so it's
yep.
60 feet long, so
Yeah, it does take up a lot of room.
so it takes up quite a bit of space. And that's, and I don't know, I guess it depends if you have ramblers or 2 stories or what you have in there type of thing as well too. But just to think that there can be something, you know, if you had 80 or 90-foot homes in there with that 150-foot lot, you are pretty close to your neighbors.
True.
I guess that's my only thought about possibly still staying at around the 200. To me, it still keeps you in a more usable thing. You're not putting some part of your property way back. Unless it's covered by wetland anyway, it probably doesn't matter. But I think the more rectangular is better, or slightly more rectangular with only the 200-foot width. There is, I think some cities, I think Becker Township used to have it, you could only have like for as wide as you are, you could only have 2.5 times the depth to create a lot. They just didn't want, you know, to have the, 150 feet by 800 feet long or 1,000 feet long. They just didn't want that, so they had it in their ordinance that way. But so I just kind of like more rectangular, the 200-foot width. As far as the setback, I wouldn't want to be anything less than 50 from the right of way. I think the 67 is still acceptable.
What if we went 175 and split it?
That's what I was gonna ask. Because the reason
I
I,
understand your point, it's like.
Yes,
you put
I agree.
You put a Rambler on there with a big 3-car garage, now half of the lot is covered, I mean.
Right. Well, more than
You
half,
don't
yeah.
want your,
Like
you
I
don't
say,
want your
90
driveway,
foot house and
you
you've
don't
got,
want your driveway right alongside your window, right, or whatever, and if you got a deck off it, so, I mean, but we also, it's like, Kelly brings a good point on, we don't know what these lots are gonna look like, and you wanna give some flexibility, so, I don't,
it kind of just depends, because on some places then, because of how these are gonna set up, you're gonna have a lot of houses that are gonna be 2 of them 40 feet apart.
Yeah.
You're gonna have a lot of them close. The next 2 might have 80 feet between them, the next 2 might have 40 again.
yeah.
So it depends how tight you want your neighborhood to look.
And if you're looking at their concept of the 31 lots, and you kind of see that not all these are perfectly equally rectangular, some of them have to be a little more pie-shaped, so they get narrower in the backside.
Yep.
That's gonna determine also where a house can be placed when it comes to lowlands, and
Right.
if you have a setback of 100, from the center of the line, or center of the road, maybe that size of house that you, like you said, 90 feet, it's gonna have to be back so far because of the way that the lot is shaped.
Right.
So that's gonna push certain things too. So I'm just saying, let's talk about a minimum situation.
Sure.
And then a developer can go above that, and we would, obviously would love to see it above it, but
Yeah.
they also have to conform to buildability on that lot. Because you can't just make the lot when it's not be buildable.
Right.
So, I'm just trying to figure out where we can be in a medium to allow for all styles.
Yep.
But yes, 90 feet is a very long house. I can tell you, as a draft person, I've probably drawn 3 houses that big in 12, 15 years. That gets big,
Yeah.
fast. They average in that 70s range and under, from corner to corner. When you start putting angled garages on and all that stuff, that's when you get into the 100 feet, 200 feet. So, goes fast.
It's just something to consider, so,
Oh, yes. Oh, I know.
like I say, in a 150-foot lot, you're,
But, I mean, as a buyer too, you're looking at it and you're like, well, I can't put a 90-foot house on a 100-foot lot.
yeah,
So they have to
Yeah.
pick a lot that's gonna conform to their
right.
purposes too.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, as a city, we should talk about what minimum we would be comfortable with, only because the 200 is pretty limiting. It's only, 430 feet deep? It really isn't that deep. So, I kinda like the 175 feet. I think we discussed that at the last meeting, 175 feet. And I still really do like that number, somewhere between.
Barry, what was your thoughts on setback?
As long as we're keeping the 66-foot right-of-way, I guess I don't have a big problem with the 50. I guess it depends if we're gonna, kind of, one of the other things along with it too, are we gonna have them have paved driveways or not? But a lot of us do tend to pull horse trailers or whatever it is, so you want them off the road, I guess. And far enough away from the road too, so. Like I say, it depends on how deep you make the lots. Is part of it. Like the 40 is definitely too close.
Well, if you drive
Again,
your,
that's a minimum, right, so they could be,
yeah, that would be a minimum.
Sometimes you'll have building, it's your high spots would be back farther, yeah. You'll have it back.
yeah. And it would depend on, like you said, some people like their place up close so they can
Sure,
get the privacy
driveway.
behind it. And some people want them way back, so just, it's,
We're just trying to find a minimum as a group here, I guess, huh?
I think this 175 would be better than the 150, because that doesn't give you too much room along the side if you're gonna be going back in there to access those buildings back in there.
I like 175 and 50.
And I have no problem with keeping it, it's 67 feet like it is.
175 puts you at about 497 feet then, the minimum.
I like the houses farther back.
Well,
I don't,
I agree.
Yeah.
Some people love to snow blow their driveways. They would hate to have to call in a plow. And I'm the other side of that world. I would rather a longer driveway and keep me away from the road.
no, yeah,
But that's me. And so many houses I draw, it's not the person. It's really a homeowner's thing.
right. I guess I would lean towards leaving the setback where it is myself,
Okay.
no matter what width we go with.
But if you have a snow blower, it doesn't, within narrow lots, you don't have very much room to blow snow.
Oh, yeah, you do.
Oh, yeah, there's plenty of
But
room.
then,
Oh, yeah.
well, I know my snow blower will blow it out there 25, 30 feet.
You got a good one then. Don't sell it.
Still a 175-foot wide.
Yes, it's quite a distance.
You're gonna do all of that to just get it to the edge of the line if you're on it.
But neither near there, but that's what I'm saying. The distance of a driveway, yeah, I don't have a lot of disagreement on the 67 feet. Anybody that likes to camp, you know, a 43, 45-foot travel trailer, back that into your yard and put your vehicle to the front of it, you're at that 60 feet.
Yep.
So, I don't know, do we really want to go any closer? Probably not. We're still kind of, you know, we're the country still, so people like having those things. We also don't want to get it too close to the road and, I mean, then we're no longer rural. Now then we're looking more like Ramsey. So there's a fine line there. Anybody else?
67, Rob?
I wouldn't have a problem going with the 50, just because somebody can build their house back farther, or they can build their house forward. It's gonna be up to them, not up to us. You know, if you like I like a long driveway also, my driveway is very long, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what that person's gonna want. I would prefer, if this was my lot, I would wanna have my house closer to the road and have more backyard, because I'm not gonna hang out in the front yard.
Right, yep. Well, and the developers want them as close as they can, basically because of how much they gotta pay for that driveway.
Utilities, driveways, everything,
That's
yep.
really their biggest concern. It's not appearance, it's how much does it cost.
That's
Yep.
what's driving it, right?
If somebody buys a lot, they're gonna come in, they're gonna pick the design of their house, all that stuff, where they put it, how they lay everything out, where the septic's gonna go and everything. And if somebody needs to put a septic in the front instead of the back, the house is gonna have to go back farther anyhow. So if we keep this, you know, at the 67, you know, then you're restricting all of that. If somebody wants to have theirs closer and have more room in the backyard or whatever, why not leave that up to them?
Good point.
The builder's not gonna just go in here and just build houses, you know, they're gonna most likely sell these lots. To somebody or whatever, they're gonna decide, you know, where they wanna have, you know, the house, what kind of design of the house, if they wanna have it at angles or whatever it is gonna end up being. But we don't wanna limit whoever would buy that, you know, on their options of what they would like to have.
Yeah, that's why we're just trying to find a nice medium for a minimum.
So
One
should we just,
75, I wouldn't have a problem, and a 50, I guess I wouldn't have a problem, you know, because if it's at 175, they can go to 200, or, you know, like you said, if you buy a different lot or whatever, depending on what they wanna do, at least it's not restricted just on those individual people, you know, what they wanna do.
should we pull it in and split that and say, I mean, 57 feet gives it a little bit more room, but it still tries to keep it far enough back that you can get,
Yeah. 57 feet's quite a bit of room. I mean,
90 from center line.
well, I mean, 57 from property line to your garage or house, whatever, that's a pretty good sized trailer hooked up to a vehicle or a couple vehicles parked in
That's
front.
that's a 5-horse trailer with a living in it, yeah. Parked in front of it that still fits,
I know, it's a lot of room.
just perspective wise.
Yeah,
And it gives, I mean, and I don't know that I have a huge debate on whether it's 67 or 50, I'm just like,
yeah,
I totally get that to the builders, if you said make it 2 feet off the road, that's best for them, right? Because it's no driveway and they could plunk it right.
They're still gonna make their development plan and they're gonna show them as close to the road so you can have them.
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm just trying to understand, and I don't know what all the lot layouts would be, but
Mhm.
there's enough is that more flexibility with some of the low ground and some of the challenges and some of these developments that are potentially out there. That's what we don't know.
Yeah.
That is the challenge that all developers face, yes, right there.
And I'm not saying that we need to make it super easy, but I'm also saying we should have some flexibility. And like Rob said, some people want them close, some people want them all the way back. I prefer to have it further back myself, but it's me.
You're looking at some of our numbers that are in the, what do we call this? Like the letter, page 2, where it says comparison of lot sizes and setback requirements. Nowthen is reverse of pretty much all the rest of them listed there. They got the largest one up front and the smallest one in back versus smallest one up front, largest one in back. Or equal.
We still have a 66-foot right away.
Right away, yeah. We weren't changing that, were we?
No, I think the city council said they didn't want to.
Okay.
If you're gonna have ditches, you wanna keep it 66.
What's that?
If we're gonna have ditches in rural sections, you wanna have it 66.
Well, in this area that we're going into, this RRT, it's gonna be soft, it's gonna be low.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some fun stuff.
You're saying that we could be narrow, but this curve is better?
That's the only reason that you would, because then you'd have a level boulevard.
Yeah.
Makes sense too.
And then that sure drives up your cost for it because you're heading curb and storm sewers.
Something to hit with the plow, I'm just
Yeah.
kidding. Okay. Well,
What are we talking about then? Looking at a 175-foot minimum then?
I'm for that, totally.
What do you think, Earl?
Don't like any of it.
Do you like change?
So can I,
If I voted against it too, I would, but the 2
Mr. Chair?
acres, so.
Yes, Leonard.
Yeah, that
Oh,
part.
so if you think about the quarter section being 1,320 feet, okay? And you subtract the road width, which is 66, you've got, so I'm looking at like, concept 1 here,
It would be 33.
okay? So if, so this is a quarter, and another one, so this is 80 acres here. So the road's kind of basically running right down the middle, right? So you have 625 feet basically on either side of the road when you subtract the right of way. So in the scenario, you know, with a 600-foot depth, 150 feet wide makes more sense. If you're going 175 by roughly 500 feet of depth, you know, you've got a couple hundred feet. It's sort of an awkward, you know, I mean, not, you still could go wider though, see, and, you know, make it work. But, I don't know,
I know how you're doing the numbers, I get it.
you know, it's just, and it depends too, if there's wetlands, if there's not wetlands. But I think there's probably gonna be, like, Ms. Peril says, pretty much everywhere in Anoka County.
Talking RRT though, isn't it just a farm field? Much
Yeah.
wetlands in the middle of the cornfield.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean,
There is.
sometimes they farm it there.
Yeah.
and They farm it, and it's amazing how many wetlands you'll come up with when you look at the aerial photo. I mean, I'm not saying I haven't at all studied that particular property.
So are we saying, Liz, if we go down the path of 175-foot width,
We got a little extra to play with.
does it doesn't lay out very good mathematically, is that?
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess what she's explaining is that if you were to look at that first one up with her cursors by, and if those were 175 foot wide drawn up, and just the same layout for the road. There'd be less lots because the lots would be longer and it would almost force the lots to be a little larger than 2 acres because they'd be 620 feet deep.
Right, your average is gonna be.
It's the
bigger
average
than
of the
2,
lot
yeah.
size is gonna go up unless they square them out like the other one and add a couple of extra roads in.
Right.
Maybe they could do that just for a cul-de-sac or something, I don't know, I mean, that's not my forte, but I'm just trying to make it work for when
A
you
lot of
get,
different layouts you could do
yeah.
with this scenario like this one to make this usable. I mean, if you had your road up here
Yep,
farther coming through, then just pull the cul-de-sac in.
yep, that's what I was gonna say too, yeah.
Yeah, you'd
Yeah.
be able to
Options,
get enough of your lots in there. Cul-de-sac lots are desirable too,
oh yeah,
absolutely, so.
yep,
There'd just be different ways to lay it out. Granted, making them big squares is pretty problematic,
Yeah.
but, there would still be flexibility to do something if you had a wider width requirement.
yeah,
Because you're still only having a 75-foot wide road frontage requirement, so like I say, you bring the road a little farther, one cul-de-sac towards that corner, you're not really adding that much more street, you're still
yeah,
filling it with 2-acre lots.
exactly, yep. But that's not our job, I guess, what I'm just saying is that we need to find something that's a minimum for the developer to work from, I guess, you know? But this is to show us what the difference is.
So we have,
Let them dedicate a 80-foot piece of park trail on the backside there you go. Along the existing road on the bottom.
so we have 150 feet of frontage required, and then you'll have 175-foot width as you're proposing it at the setback line, okay? And then about 500 feet of depth. And then if you're up, except if you're on a cul-de-sac, you can go down to 75 feet of frontage on the cul-de-sac because of the angles.
So when we say 175, that pulls it down to what?
No, so it's okay because the road frontage can be a little less at 150.
Okay.
You widen out a little to where your house sits to 175, and then whatever, anything behind it. So I think it works. I mean, we wouldn't go any less than 150 based on that road frontage unless we changed that, so.
Am I hearing you right, what you're saying, that the lots would be 150 feet out of the road,
No,
but you'd have to have the house at 175?
You always measure the lot width where the house is sitting at the setback.
Yeah,
Right,
That's where your 175 feet would be then?
yep, correct,
Okay.
yep.
And you can pull it down to 150 at the road, even with the
Right.
170?
Yes,
Okay.
so
So
even
that's
if you had a 200 width, you could pull it down to 150 at the road, and,
But if you
You'd
were
still have
at
some-
150 width, does it stay 150 at the road then, or?
yep, it can just, yep, that'd be the narrowest,
So 150 is the narrowest at the road?
at the road, yep,
Gotcha.
except for a cul-de-sac, yeah.
Yeah. I like 175. I like potentially saying, giving them a little bit more flexibility and going like 57 and taking 10 feet off that and saying 40's not enough, but
yeah,
somewhere between that 40 and 67 and call it 57.
I'm on the same train of thought as well, I'm good with that. Gives the options to the developer.
Be fine.
And we'll leave it at 66 feet from the right of way, or that's what we're working with?
Right away is at 66, yep.
Yep.
Schiller. Got an opinion on that?
If you're at 66, what are other cities around here? Like, say if we went to St. Francis or any of that kind of stuff, and you went
Smaller.
Well, the reason.
to what?
It's hard to
Smaller.
compare
It's all the
because
same?
No, they're smaller.
Well,
What are they, and why would they, are they that
they
way?
already said it.
I would think most right away are
Because of
66 still.
ditch.
But-
They've got city sewers.
That's exactly
Right.
it. They have curbs
Yeah.
and sewer.
60s
Yeah.
are for if you got curbs and sewers, because you have no ditch.
Yeah.
You don't have to be so fussy when you got city sewer because you can kind of jog around more.
Shane kind of explained it in his memo that, you know, you need to have some depth to,
Somewhere to go,
for your depth and for the ditch and for culverts.
We got some steep ditches in this city limits
Then they still
already.
need to try to get, you know, whatever cable or other things through the development. like that as
Utilities,
well, too.
yeah.
I think Oak Grove is pretty close to that 2 acre line, aren't they?
I think they have
I think they're right.
they have 2.5.
It's either 2 or 2.5, but I think something, they vary it too because of water problems.
They have a 2.5 acre average with a 2 acre minimum.
Yeah, they can go down to 2 acres with a 2.5 acre average.
Okay, we're coming to a conclusion, then it, cut it down to 57 feet. And,
Yeah, from the property.
57
yeah,
from the
175
property
at the
line.
house setback.
Okay, so so front setback 57 from property line, 90 from center line. Side yards are good at 20 and 35, the way they are for rear.
And what's side yard and rear yard, what's, help me?
20 right now.
At 20 feet.
Property line to the house.
So you've got
Property
100,
line to the house is 20 feet?
yeah, so 175 wide, less 40. You've got 135 feet to work with in width.
I mean, Bear's house isn't that big, you said, right?
Right. Barry's house will fit.
Bear's house is big.
Just barely.
And the rear yard setback, so that's,
35 right now as proposed.
and that's the minimum that we can be off the rear of the line to build the house, is that what that's
For
telling
any
you?
structure, right?
For any structure, yeah.
And sewer.
And what?
And
And
drain
septic.
field and stuff.
No, that can go within 10 feet,
Okay.
yeah.
It's- Seems reasonable, doesn't it?
Yeah. I mean,
Seems to be in line with,
every other city, pretty much. They're all about the same until you get into a really small city scenario where it's houses upon houses.
right?
Okay, so,
Go to the next one.
So if we go with so we assume, just so I got this picture in my mind, so if we're at 175-foot lot, right?
right,
So the closest any two houses would ever be, would be 40 foot.
correct.
I mean, that's theoretically the closest two houses. I mean, I don't know why you'd wanna build them at 40 feet apart, but that's theoretically how close they could be. So we're not gonna have this neighbor A opens his window, neighbor B opens his window, and they can touch.
If you look at the
Yeah, that's the
lots
same as-
that are being built by the new school up here,
That's different.
there's no, I don't think there's 40 feet between the houses.
There's not.
No,
There's
No.
not.
there's 20, it would
I
surprise
think
me.
there's close to 20, yes.
I mean, you can shake the guy's hand
That's
almost.
what I meant, we don't want,
Yeah.
we don't want that.
But see, another thing you gotta remember, what's driving this is what he's been pushing, you know, is that there'll be no basement under a lot of these homes for the old people. And that's, and so what do you do to get your square footage up there? You end up with a bigger footprint. So you gotta remember that too.
It's only 2,000 square feet.
What would you say?
It's a rambler, yeah, but if it's 2,000 square feet.
Big
But
house?
that footprint can grow quite a
Yeah, but
bit
as a rambler,
when you
it's
get
not-
rid of one floor.
Yeah.
A lot of this RRT is the land, lowland, there's not gonna be a lot of options for a full basement.
Well, it looks to me on that
The
land,
water table's too
you'll have
high.
to do like they did the house up the road here. Have to build a big mound and set the house on top of the mound.
Possible,
That is pretty low over there, I don't know
I
how.
know.
That's this next piece, right, that we're gonna talk about?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah.
Net buildability, that's what that is, right?
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, I got it in my mind. 40 feet apart at that.
Well,
absolute
just
worst
to
case.
add, you know, insult to injury, we have, when you do have to bring in fill, or if you do, then, you know, your building pads are basically closer together too, right? So you have less width to feather out that fill versus, you know, a wider lot. So depending on what the builder chooses to do, you know, you could have a series of
Go for mounds.
ups and downs.
Right.
And yeah, it's completely based on what type of house they're putting in, which we can't even begin to guess.
Right. Okay.
But if you're good with that, then, so, setbacks decided, impervious surface was non-negotiable, that's 35%. Based on city engineer recommendation for RRT and RRA. Number 3 on page 3, the right-of-way doesn't change.
And what was the ask on the drop impervious surface requirement? What, I don't,
Well, the builder just didn't wanna worry about any of it. And said there wasn't a problem, but it's needed from an engineering standpoint when you're designing a plat and you're planning for, impervious surface, you plan for 35%. And the reason being is, most of the time, I mean, our ordinance allows for any increases in impervious surface up to 10,000 square feet, or rather over 10,000 square feet would require a stormwater pond, and we don't want that to happen with all these residential lots, right?
okay.
So we plan ahead and we design the plat to accommodate with up to 35% of impervious, so homeowners don't have to worry about it.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's pretty rare you're ever gonna get anybody that even gets close to that.
Okay.
But it is, you know, it is gonna be something that the developer or the builder has to figure out. When they submit for a building permit, they're gonna have to tell me, you know, what percentage of the lot is covered by impervious.
Okay.
Okay, so, number 4, street, width changes were non-negotiable. Number 5 was regarding net buildability. We walked through that with the council at their last meeting. At that time, they felt that was reasonable to stay where we're at for both districts. We do allow houses to go down within 1 foot of modeling as it is. And we're very similar, if not the same, as St. Francis and Ramsey. Oak Grove's a little lesser requirement for area-wise, but they also require a 2-foot separation, and we allow a 1-foot separation. So, all in all, we're pretty close to our neighbors in buildability. Any thoughts on that, or we're,
I don't know.
One big thought you totally missed on that
okay?
is that Nowthen has a lot of hardpan in it. And there is no flexibility with hardpan as far as, you know, it's there and that's it. And if it's been a dry fall and a wet spring, it can cause you really a lot of trouble. And you go to Ramsey, the Ramsey doesn't have hardpan. St. Francis doesn't have hardpan. that you can't compare those two exactly the same. So really, what it amounts to is that you probably, it's mandatory that you have a drain tile and all these in Nowthen for sure. Because it's just a smart idea, whether, I don't care whose it is.
Right.
Because, some years, it's nothing that bothers, other years it could be just pathetic. So,
Would the geotechnical engineering analysis cover that, Liz, or no?
Well, he's, in some respects, he's talking about it, you know, I mean, it's a treatment. It's, you know, it's a waterproofing, it's a
Yeah.
sump pump, it's the exterior
Exterior
treatments of
Yeah.
that foundation. And, you know, I'd say at least 9 times out of 10, they're doing that anyway now.
Yeah.
But it's a difference of creating more usable area per lot for other things too, including accessory buildings. You know, whether it be a swing set, a accessory building, or just some grass that's not flooded every year, you know? 23,000 square feet is only a quarter of a 2-acre lot.
it's a half acre,
Yeah.
it's short.
So as we, you know, can we fit a primary system and a backup system and a house on 11 or 12,000 square feet? Yes, we can. But it doesn't allow, you know, we don't have any other restriction that limits how much of our lot can be wetland. So this is partially what helps us with that we have that usable area on these lots. It's not inundated seasonally. So, you know, a quarter acre out of a 2-acre lot doesn't, in my mind, seem too much to ask. But can you go lower square footage like Oak Grove? Yes, you could.
This is the one that I just cannot seem to grasp and understand. Why, what its purpose, sole purpose is. I don't know enough about this.
So you have a little lawn outside your house.
Is that Mary?
So you have more lawn outside your house instead of, you know, cattails 30 feet behind your house.
Yeah, and so you don't have a wet basement. It's the distance between.
Well, I understand that part,
Oh, okay.
but then the minimum of the 23,000 square feet versus the 10,000 square feet, what does that have to do with it then? I understand the separation of the soils, I get that. And then the 1 foot above water table, I get all that.
So it's this way, it's the amount of usable area horizontally that you have within your lot
For a lawn.
that has for separation, yeah. So the higher separation above modeling, it's not gonna be seasonally inundated typically, you know. With water, the water table is closer to the surface, then you've got more water issues.
Basically gonna say that one quarter of this 2-acre lot is going to be usable for house, driveway, lawn, outbuildings.
Is that what this is kind of trying to
Yep,
say? Because
septic
I'm
field.
just trying to
Yep,
grasp the
basically 1
whole.
quarter of the lot has to be,
That's 43,000 or that's 20?
That's
that's
11,000.
the 23,000.
No, that's a half an acre.
Right.
23,000,
Of a 2-acre
half acre.
lot, it's 1 quarter of it.
Oh, I thought you was,
Oh,
oh,
what's
my
the
bad.
other?
One quarter of a 2-acre lot,
So half an acre.
half an acre, is completely usable for whatever you want, whether it's lawn, buildings, septic fields, driveways.
That's what this is meaning.
That's basically what that means.
So I got that, but then what's the other 23,000?
Well, so 23,000 has 3 feet of separation, and the other 20,000 something has 1 foot of separation.
Oh, for God's sake.
So it can slope downward then toward a wetland or,
So a quarter of the acre has to have 3 foot of separation, the other quarter can be down to 1 foot of separation.
right,
So it can transition from 3 to 1,
right.
basically.
And your septic systems have to have 3 feet of separation anyway, so.
But the septic systems are all, I mean, isn't that separate because they're all mound systems anyway, and we create
Well,
that separation?
right, well, it'd be better if they didn't have to be, but a lot of them are, and now then, yeah.
So with what you just said with the 23,000 with 3 feet, and then the 20,000 with 1 foot, a little over 20,000, that's almost a full acre
Right.
that is then buildable
Half of it.
on a 2 acre lot. Is that what
I would
that's
say usable, not
Yeah.
buildable.
Usable, right.
usable?
Yeah,
Well,
not-
isn't that the whole point behind this thing is so that it's usable for a building or swing
buildability.
set?
23,000 is what you're kind of calling buildable, and then, yeah, the rest of it's
23,000 is a
usable.
quarter acre or half?
Half of an acre?
Half an acre.
It's half.
Yep.
I'm just trying to like wrap my head around what this one does not. It conflicts with my brain, sorry.
So if you're doing the balance of the 1 acre has to be with a 1 foot separation, you know, then, so you're gonna end up with another half an acre of a foot of dirt. If you've got trees and everything around there, nice oaks and all that kind of stuff, you're gonna make them cut all them trees down just to get that extra foot.
No, you don't necessarily, well, it's not always true. There may already be 1 foot of separation.
But if there's not, then they have to, and if they have to add dirt, say they gotta come in here and add a foot of dirt, if there's trees anywhere around there,
You
they ain't
lose them
gonna
all.
live. You're gonna make them take them trees down even if they do not want to.
If there's trees there, there's more than a foot of separation. Otherwise it'd be swamped.
Right.
Why'd they call them trees up down the road on 47 then? In that development that guy came in here about?
Oh,
NIH,
Brian's Bend?
I don't know.
no, NIH one,
Yeah,
Yeah.
Brian's Bend. NIH is Larry.
yeah, Brian's been.
Need room for the road.
They cut more trees than that down.
Let's not just,
Yeah, that's over.
no, I know, but the trees are in the lot, they're not just at the road, they're,
There's some in there should come down too, cause there's a lot of them oak that are pretty darn old in there.
okay, so.
A lot of oak wilt in there.
This also affects trees to them. And
It would, I mean,
it
Well,
would,
potentially, I mean, like we said, most of that RRT is farmland, so there's not a lot of trees out there, down by that lake, there may be some.
and there's not gonna be a lot of separation of soil either.
There may not be, no. We don't know that, I guess, I have no idea. I mean, I don't know, how are you basing your opinion on that?
Well, I don't have much of an actual expert opinion, I guess. I giggle because you farm and you can farm across some pretty marshy land, and then when you break through, you go, oh, man. So, you don't know what's underneath, but
is the 3 foot,
There is an
is a
actual
3 foot
survey.
separation area, is that, I mean, is that a lot? I'm trying to understand here, it's like, are we asking somebody to basically put their house on a mound in every one of these? And you're saying of a 2 acre lot, 1 acre of it has to be, half of it has to be usable, and
Well, and I guess they do call it buildable, which is basically the exact same as St. Francis and Ramsey have, they both have 1 acre of buildable. And we're just saying that half of that has to be at least 3 feet above. Otherwise, so yeah, we're basically still saying the same as the other 2 cities, we want 1 acre but buildable. And
And it-
usable, and, but at least half of that being of some quality, being 3 feet above mounted soil.
And it has to be an acre that's contiguous, so that it's usable and you have some,
yeah, I get that.
you know, it can't be all split up.
Just trying to avoid a scenario where we drive past it and every one of these things is built on a mound because of some requirement that we put in there.
Well, this has been in place for,
Totally get that, but you have more flexibility when it's 5 acres versus 2, and we're talking they're 175 feet apart. The lots are 175 feet wide, and you're trying to, it's like, I'm just trying to understand, is this
Right.
driving a requirement that's gonna make these homes look like every one of them is built on a little hill?
That's
Well, we
exactly
have
the point.
2.5 acre lots that have had to comply with this. And so,
But that's,
I
again,
mean,
that's,
have you noticed though? I mean, that is a 300-foot lot width though.
but again, that 2.5 acres is a, still on a 5 acre average, so this is after some developers went through and figured out and surveyed it on how to, I'm assuming, maximize where his house goes and minimize where the dirt has to go, right?
Right, but there are many, many lots that only have the 1 acre of usable area. And so within that 1 acre, you know, they got their house in there with the 3 feet of separation.
And
And
Yeah, I
what is-
haven't
and what is
noticed.
the note that says building, change buildability requirement to local decision? Is local decision in the city council? What does that mean?
Well, right, that means
It's
it's,
us.
yeah,
Yeah.
that's,
Okay.
so, you know, if you,
and
like I said, you can get a primary septic site, a backup site, and a house, and probably even a pole barn within 11 or 12,000 square feet. But you have no other limitations on how much of your lot can be wetland. That's the concerning part to me. Unless you know, if you wanna go lower with your buildability and then have a different requirement that says, you know, only half of your lot can be wetland.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out here, when it says, 1 acre site may not include wetlands in the St. Francis notation, and that's 10,000 square feet with 3-foot separation. So I'm trying to figure out, how do these, I mean, these cities have, I mean, look at Ramsey, St. Francis, Oak Grove, they've been a city longer than us, so I'm just trying to look at what they have, but I don't know if we're stepping up and making it more complicated for ourselves and a builder versus what has already been used on the closer cities. Are we creating more problems, like you said?
Well, you don't have to narrow your lot width either, you know, I mean, I guess,
Well, I guess we're past
if
that.
if they're going hand in hand, I mean, we could talk to the city engineer some more about the technicality of it, or if, you know,
I don't know enough about it to feel like I should be driving a decision on this right now. Can we move forward and come back to this?
yep.
If this is the
yeah.
only problem we have right now?
Mhm.
Let's come back to this,
Okay,
so we can move forward a little bit.
all right, so number 6 then on page 4. Right now, we have a requirement that driveways be set back 5 feet from the side lot line. And we were proposing that they be within 15 feet from the side lot lines to allow for snow storage, tree planting, etc. So your setback's 20 anyway. If we wanna have an exception for, you know, like a cul-de-sac when you've only got 75 feet, we potentially could. But I don't even think in that scenario that it would always be necessary.
This is a side lot line, not,
This is a side, right, well, any, within 5 feet or 15 feet of any roadway or side lot lines. What we were saying is they were proposing that the paved areas, the driveway and the paved areas can't go any closer than 15 feet.
then what's the 5 feet?
That's where we're at now.
Oh. So you're saying between,
Well, no, Mr. Raisler wanted keep it at 5 feet is what he wanted.
Oh, okay.
But we're at 5 feet now and we've had some problems with it.
5 feet would then, at the minimum, it'd be 10 feet between two driveways, because there's not gonna be another driveway on the other side of it, 5 feet, within 10 feet of it, because
Right,
of the
but-
width of our lots.
5 feet, well, no, there could be a driveway if the requirement's only 5 feet. You could have a driveway up to
10 feet apart.
Yeah,
10 feet apart.
on one side. Then the other side, because of the width of the lot, wouldn't it be further than 10 feet?
No, you could have them 10 feet apart. So
They
they're
can both
5,
build within 5 feet of the lot line.
5
Yeah,
feet, 5 feet on either side of your lot line. So there could, typically, they could be 10 feet apart, which is tough. You can't plant trees in a 5-foot space. It's hardly even enough for snow storage. If you have a plow that goes whizzing down your driveway, it gets thrown farther than 5 feet.
Are we talking about like a 10-foot wide driveway?
No, well, no, because, well, it could be in some cases.
So I'm thinking like a 10-foot wide driveway, and you're saying 5 feet on each side of it.
No. We're talking about how far your driveway is from the side lot line.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But what I'm saying is that if you imagine your driveway 10 feet, and you can have it 5 feet off the side lot line, that's, 15 feet to the other side of the driveway. That other side of the driveway is gonna have more than 10 feet to it
Oh,
because of
way
the width
over,
of the
yeah.
property, right?
On the other
So
side
it'd only
of
be
the
one side of the driveway that could potentially have 10 feet close, is what you're saying. Am I
Correct.
following that?
Right, if your neighbor has one that's close.
That's what I was making sure that I understood. Okay,
All right,
okay.
got it. So thoughts on that, anybody?
I kind of like the idea of the 15 feet with, like I say, possible exceptions and cul-de-sacs. Maybe even only down to 10 in that case.
And I was actually on the mind frame of 10 all the way around, sounds pretty good, because it's half of the distance from the house setback too, so.
Right. Two driveways could be closer to 20 feet that way.
Then they wouldn't be any closer than 20.
But like I say, if somebody wanted to plant trees or anything like that on their driveways, do a little landscape,
Yeah.
not a lot of space.
Because you have a problem, when you plant a tree, it's gonna spread out, and it's gonna go over into your neighbor's property.
Right.
So I think you better, like he said, go into 15 feet.
Yep. We got wide enough lots, the house is gonna be 20 feet off, so driveway could be 15.
Are we, with this setup, are we allowing 2 driveways?
Well, that's another question, because we currently allow 2 if you have 125 feet of frontage or more. So, that's the other thing, is that those would be closer together.
Let's see.
But people may shy away from it if they have a paving requirement too. Some may not, though. They have to pave in the front yard up to the house and next to the side, and then in the rear they can have gravel.
Everything in front of the house has to be paved?
Right. That's the way it's written.
I thought it said class 5 are all considered impervious surfaces.
No, that's true. They're still impervious, but looks wise and, I guess from an aesthetic standpoint. And you're parking vehicles on the paved surface rather than the
That's item
gravel.
number 10, yeah.
I was just crunching the numbers on the double lot line. If your lot's 175 and you have a 10-foot, 2 10-foot driveways, you got 10 feet to work with. That's it. Because you have to have a minimum of a certain distance between the 2 driveways. So you only get 10 feet to work with. If you do 10 feet from sideline to sideline. If you do 15 feet from sideline to sideline, that's it. That is what you get. You get a 10-foot driveway with 125 between it. The minimum side lots set for you. Does that make sense? So if you have 175, you take off 30, then you have 10-foot driveways, that's another 20, that's 50, and 125 between them. That's it.
No, I don't know. I don't think I'm following you.
Correct, it only has to be 150 foot wide at the road.
No, I know that, that's what I'm saying, but if you have 175, our minimum, so like we talked about.
Your driveway setback is within your structure setback, it's not in addition to it, right? So-
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay.
I guess do the numbers on it, but that's what I came up with, that you could only have a second driveway if it's 175 at the road. And if we did the 10-foot setback, there's just a little bit of room to move it, or the 10-foot side, what do we call this, the side lot line for the driveway. But if you do 15, it is exactly what it is unless the lot is wider than 175.
The requirement, the 125 is what we currently have. If you have 125 feet of frontage, we allow a second driveway. Doesn't say they have to be 125 feet apart.
I thought it was 125 feet apart. Okay,
Oh, okay,
misunderstood.
that's why I wasn't getting it. Okay.
Misunderstood, okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
What are we agreeing on? 15,
The-
15 feet to the side?
15 or 10?
10 or 15,
I agree with Barry, I think it should be 15. I don't know.
I don't, it's 5 feet, I don't know that I have a huge opinion.
I don't have opinion on it either.
I think, we think 15 is better for trees, for plant trees and snow storage. I can make that work, and if the ordinance says we gotta pave all the way up to it, it feels like most people are gonna peel off the side of their driveway to go around the back. They're probably not gonna put in a second driveway if they didn't pave it. In my opinion, just
right, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
from a cost perspective, right?
Yeah, right. Okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter, 15 or 10, it's fine.
So can that driveway go into the, that can go into the 20 foot from the side of the
Right,
house?
yeah, I can go into the structure setback, right.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah, I think 15's reasonable, and Len, because that's what we were gonna change it to for the RRA also,
Okay.
and then we'd be consistent. And if we wanna allow an exception on a cul-de-sac or something down to 5 feet, we could say that.
That seems reasonable, right, for these cul-de-sacs, flag lots, or some other scenario that we come up with?
Okay. Number 7, we,
We changed to 175.
yeah, he was asking for 200, so. You want to go lower than what he was asking for?
Isn't this the 175 decision we made?
Yeah,
Yep,
this is,
Yeah.
yeah.
okay. Number 8, side yard setback, he wants 15, we decided on 20.
Yeah,
20 is 40 foot between two homes, right?
yeah,
Correct, yeah.
yeah, I think that's,
I like 20.
that'll look nice.
And number 9, we said
150 feet of street frontage, except for cul-de-sacs are already 75, so,
okay.
okay,
No change to number 9. It's what
Number
it
9,
is today.
stay the same.
right.
Okay.
Number 10, he doesn't want the paving requirements in the front. But with your houses closer together, I'm thinking most people are gonna pave their driveways anyway, and then if you get the occasional or every 10th one that maybe doesn't, you know, is that gonna stand out? Is that gonna make the neighborhood not look as nice? You know, this is mostly an aesthetic thing, and it's a defined place to park, you know, vehicles. Gravel does tend to kinda, you know, meander a little bit.
I don't have a decision heavily weighed on this one.
We cut the frontage down, so what would be wrong with having,
Well, we pulled it closer, so he's
yeah,
not,
so
he's
what
not
would be,
paving as far on every house now, right?
Yeah.
so what would be wrong with pavement or cementing it, or make that a requirement?
I guess the only thing that I would say you would propose is like, if it's your primary driveway that goes up to the house, it should be paved. If it's a secondary driveway, do we care if it's gravel?
I agree.
Do you really care if it's gravel, even the primary driveway though? I know,
I mean,
it's,
it's difficult, cause this is gonna, I mean, these are. right
From a
now they're different.
homeowner's
These are
standpoint.
2 acre lots, right, so it's
Yeah.
175 feet wide,
yeah.
so the houses are gonna look closer together than what we're used to seeing here, right?
Yeah.
So,
And most of the time you prefer to have, you know, some pad at least by the garage. Park on the start with, that's what anybody would.
so I mean, if you have
You're
what's
paving
normal,
half of it anyway, just by,
what's normal pad in front of a house? In front of a garage?
Deep enough for your car, like
Yeah.
15,
It's like
20
30
feet.
feet, right?
I was gonna say 25
22.
feet, cause you got an apron on the garage, and
So
then
if
at
you have
least
an
20
apron on
foot
the
park
garage, it's
installed. Yep.
25, 30 feet, you're only going another potentially 25 feet out. And it's gonna taper, right?
Yeah,
Most times. they do.
Typically, right.
I mean, I would propose you leave it asphalt, but I would say if you have a secondary driveway, that potentially would not necessarily, that could be gravel.
Well, in the rear yard though, the way it's written is it would be rear yard gravel, front yard would have to be paved. So then that's what we were saying, is that they would tend to utilize the same entrance and then go around the side, you know?
If you want to, but somebody may want his garage, house on one side, pole barn on the other. And if he's
True.
got a, I was like, do we really, I mean, I understand the requirement in front of the house and it's dedicated parking and we want that maybe asphalt, but a secondary driveway, I'd say it can be in my opinions, it can be classified. And we don't restrict them to, he's gonna pave right up to his house and then it's gonna be classified beyond that. It's just my thought on a secondary driveway.
Okay. Anybody else?
As a homeowner maintenance perspective of it all, gravel's so much easier to maintain, but that's me.
But what about the people that don't do it, and the
Yeah, I
grass
know.
grows up and the
I know.
weeds grow up,
I know,
you know?
yeah, and there's the people that have a broken up tar driveway, and it looks like crap anyways.
Yeah. You know, and you know, with a farmstead or a hobby farm, the gravel's, you know, it's different, it sort of fits in, but this is more of a neighborhood, so, I don't know, it's up to you.
Yeah, I know.
We gotta remember with these 2 acre lots, this is gonna be completely different in our city. And because we got them the setbacks changed closer to the road, people's gonna be looking at this, and if we aren't more uniform, it's gonna look terrible. Cause they're so close, these houses could be 100 and, but we cut it down to 100.
175,
Yeah, 175, so that's why.
That's why I think we should definitely, I mean, that's why I'm fine with keeping, and again, we pulled it closer, so the requirement for getting it paved to the house is a lot less than it was in the past. I'm just saying, if there's somebody that wants to put in a second driveway, do we force them to pave that, or can that not be gravel?
Yeah, I'm fine with the second driveway
I don't
gravel.
have, anybody else have any problem with?
yeah, that's our, the second one would be doing, like I say, to a pole building, it's probably lesser used.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But
I'm fine with it.
I don't, especially when you consider, we pulled it to 57 feet. 30 feet in front of the garage is a typical apron, right? That's gonna be
Yeah.
concrete, so now you're only talking another 20 feet out that's tapered, that's not that far to pave. Okay,
Yeah, fine. We can
so
require
do you
it
got
like
that,
that.
Liz?
Got it.
Are we gonna go back to the other one we're struggling with?
Yeah, well, that sounds like so much fun. Let's go back to that. What was that?
Well, we could also wait on that and just, the other thing that we have to decide on is that the developer didn't comment on the foundation sizes.
We thought we already did that.
Did we decide that last time?
I thought so.
It wasn't an issue, okay.
I don't know. I thought we decided that. Oh, didn't he talk about 2 stories, wanting to change a 2-story foundation plan, and we didn't go to that, did we? We didn't talk about that. I don't see it in the notes. Anybody?
On page 2, bottom of page
Thank you. Missing it. Yeah, 1,200, single family, 1,000 for a multi-level. Oh, I know, he was saying 1,000 for a multi-level was too much for a 2-story. That's what he said.
Commission consensus was to keep the multi-level minimum at 960.
Yeah. Because 960 is
Yeah,
the minimum you can pretty much build anything in.
so it's done, we made that call, right?
Yeah, so 960 is pretty good. I mean, for a 2-story, 960.
It's good.
It's a big house, but doesn't have to be a full 2-story either. It can be a partial. Okay.
So you were at 960 and 1,000?
No, it was 960 and 1,200. 960 for a multi-level and 1,200 for a single level, right? Instead of going up to 1,000. Yeah, that's what we did. Were we supposed to talk about that differently then?
Okay.
Is that covered, Liz?
I think we're covered on this ordinance.
Except for the one. I need some more time on that one to figure it all out.
Not ready for a motion, so I'll just take a motion here.
Okay, so maybe what I should do is we'll bring back the final version. Do you wanna do that?
Okay.
Yeah,
In other words,
And then we can add, or, you know, if we have another ordinance or some other topics that we still have to address, then we still have that to discuss too.
we still have the net buildability to discuss, but for the most part, everything else is.
Are we gonna continue this public hearing then? Is that what you?
No,
No?
well, we could, but we don't have to.
I think,
Discussion, is there a huge deal if you go to a 2-foot separation versus the 3-foot?
Well, you gotta have well, yeah, I guess. You could go to 2 foot and then you still have to build a mound anyway.
I
Yeah,
mean, most houses,
most have a mound, right,
most have a mound anyway, right?
yes.
And is that, trying to,
You could, yeah.
trying to
you could go
understand, does that give the builder some more flexibility and not hauling in as much dirt and potentially not cutting down trees?
Yeah, right? What does that do?
I don't think trees is gonna be an issue, but, yeah, it does require less fill that way if fill has to be brought in. I have no idea what those soils are like, I guess.
But,
You know, this has been in place since before we became a city.
Yeah, and it's like, if you look at some of the other ones, they're all, you know, everybody else.
it's all different.
Every other city's different, and Harold's got a good point, it's like Nowthen's got a different soil type as well, but I'm just trying to avoid having, and if the geotechnical engineer signs off on it, that it's buildable based on the separation that we outlined, seems like.
Yeah, and that's mostly just to put your house lower, you know, that's not as much regarding the overall area that's required.
What do you think, Barry?
That's the way not to, it lowers the houses a foot, I guess what it does, so if you're worried about them having to be filled so much.
I think it obviously all depends on the lots, right, and where this thing, how much.
Right.
How much disruption to the natural lay of the land are you getting into?
Yeah. That's how I understand it. How much,
Well, and if you're trying to get a walkout, yeah, then they have to bring in fill anyway.
yeah,
Yeah.
but,
No matter
But if
what.
they're, depending on what their floor plans are. But I like the idea, can we summarize everything that we've agreed to, and can we go back and get some more information? Maybe 2 foot isn't reasonable, but it just seems like, all right, that's a foot less of dirt that someone's either gotta haul in, or gives them a little bit more flexibility to work with the natural lay of the land.
so, I guess another question I have, and I'm trying to understand this.
Okay,
The 23,000 square feet with the 3-foot separation, that means that at 3 feet, there should be 23,000 surface square feet.
So
right.
So then beyond that, obviously, we have to slope the
it.
land out, no matter what, to get to the right.
So just theoretically, it's on a 2-acre lot, so half of the lot could go from 3 feet down to 1 foot, so they're hauling in
Yeah,
everything for that.
if it needs to be
Depending
hauled.
on,
Yeah,
and then you've got this huge, I'm 3 feet up and then I'm going down to nothing, and then I'm 3 feet up going down to nothing for every one of these homes.
yeah. Oh, man.
Most of the lot splits I see, they don't have to create a mound. Now, you know,
Yeah. Are you talking like a mound system for like sewer, is that what you mean by mound?
I don't think there was maybe but 1 or 2 of the lots in Brian's Bend that had to bring in fill for
For the
of
house
the-
foundation or for
Yeah,
a mound
out of
system?
right, out of that subdivision, to get the 3 feet. is what
And
I'm
that's
saying.
based on soils, correct?
Well, it's based on modeling,
Mm-hmm. Based on the soil boring.
indication of where the water table has been.
Yep,
Right.
and we don't know that. That's why this is.
I mean, yeah, so what I'm saying is, yeah, I have no idea what the soils are like, but most of the lot splits I see already have the 3-foot separation, they don't have to create it. Now, if you're developing, you know, a complete plat, it may be different. But, cause you're trying to squeeze as many as you can out of it. And you're, you know, creating building sites potentially, but I don't know.
I don't know.
You know, is that soil there really any different than the other 35 sections? If you want more information, yeah, we can get our engineer and, but I think he's gonna say the way it was described to me is, yeah, you can go to the 2-foot separation. if you want to. It's really up to the homeowners and the developers to provide the waterproofing, the drain tile, whatever, you know, if they know they're close to it, or they can bring in fill. So again, that would be, you know, the minimum, they can always go more, right?
Right.
And that's where, yeah,
And it
minimum.
feels like they have their geotechnical guy do the survey and analysis. He's gonna come up with what's the solution needed to make these homes dry, because if they're not dry, the builder's gonna have way more problems than he's gonna sign up for, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, I mean, this is not my area of expertise, I'm just trying to understand.
And as you look at this, they may have to put in a lot of drain trail, because I know my neighbor's land, it was a farmland, and they farmed that, and he's got his house there, and every time it rains, he's dug up the drain tile, and the whole yard is full of water now, because they dug up the drain tile. So I'm guessing even over there, they're gonna have to put a lot of drain tiles in over there to get that water out of there. Don't you agree, Harold, that
Well,
it's pretty low?
most builders, if they're not necessarily happy with him doing anything that way, but most of the builders that now will put a drain tile in the house when they build it. But he's got a reputation of not doing that, you know, over at Albertville. And I know people that live over there, and they've got water problems up to Yin Yang, in that right west of Albertville, right along the freeway there.
Okay, what do we do for, Liz, do we have to close this public hearing then?
Is there a way that we can find out what kind of soils are in our city, so at least we're setting this up properly?
You know
No,
what you
it
gotta
doesn't
do?
matter, again, it really shouldn't matter, because well, I guess it may, but again, it's all about the house style,
No, I know that, but
whether it's a walkout, whether it's not.
The
We have
soil-
horrible soils, that's what, I mean,
The Soil and Water Conservation has got a survey.
they're bad,
yeah, I know, they do the survey.
you can
Yeah,
assume they're
it's-
bad.
It's pretty accurate. You should get the one, and you should have one of them.
I don't know if I do.
Huh?
I don't know if I do. Of our city?
Yeah, you can get one, and they claim they're accurate within, I believe, a half an acre.
Okay.
And I'll tell you what kind of soil it is and everything throughout the whole county. So it's kind of a fun book to look at.
Fun?
Oh, yeah,
You-
it tells you
Your
what,
description of fun is scary.
So Liz, for the next session, you're gonna summarize what we talked about in terms of setbacks, lot widths, driveways, and put that proposal out there, and then we'll have a little bit more information from the engineer on this
This buildability.
net buildability.
Yeah, I'll tell him you were considering going to the 2 feet, and we'll get his opinion, and
Okay,
I think he's gonna be fine with it.
okay, that's helpful.
Yeah,
Okay, then,
if,
you want us to continue this meeting then, or?
Yeah,
we can continue it.
Okay,
yep, we'll continue
okay,
it.
I'll take a motion, if somebody like.
I'll make a motion to do all those fun changes we just talked about in the last hour and a half and continue this till next meeting.
Commissioner Carroll, she made the motion, somebody like to second the motion?
Second.
Commissioner Wagner, seconded, any further discussion? We'll vote on it, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. So that closes that,
Okay, we got somewhere a little bit.
continue, right, then now we're gonna have a discussion for Josh Peace, and he's been waiting there all night. Concept plan review, he has submitted a concept plan for phase 2 and phase 3 of brand name stories at 8335 and 8359 Viking Boulevard Northwest, which includes removal of the existing farmstead and establish a new street. Okay, Liz, can you give us some information on this now? Planner Stockman?
Sure. If I can get my PowerPoint going here.
Business must be good.
Having a bad day, guys.
Yeah, that, people got too much shit.
Well, that's obvious. We all have pole buildings that still have no room.
Consumer-based economy.
Pretty good plan.
Well, if you make money at it, why not?
You have to do it in Ramsey as well?
Yeah. Just trying to buy my kid Nikes, no big deal.
Oh my gosh. And if you believe that,
Okay, so what Mr. Peterson's looking for, just general comments, concept plan review. We don't need a formal recommendation, and it's just advisory only when we're looking at a site concept plan. So, we're all familiar with the property which is located on Viking Boulevard on the west side of our industrial park. So he is the westerlymost industrial zoned property. Way back in 2013, we adopted a frontage road plan which requires future street connection from Iguana all the way out to Viking for a four-way full intersection at the time that 22 becomes a grade separated highway with a median. So if we, if he eventually comes out of his driveway, it would be right in, right out only. So this street serves as an extension of our existing industrial park to the west, and then creates a full intersection so we can assure safe and easy access to our frontage road system. So in this graphic, it fit better horizontally, but north is to the left, okay? So this is Iguana. Iguana Street is up here. And then this would be the future connection. This would be going east-west. So this is the 5 buildings in the existing development. He is proposing to extend the driveway. And then phase 2 is the 5 buildings here on the west.
okay.
And then the house would sit here and remain as a rental until, this would have to be on a separate lot, so he would have to go through a subdivision. He would need to combine this part of the lot with the south piece so that he had access onto Viking. I think when we approved phase 1 and said that there would be no other development until this road was built, I think it was, this is a separate lot, and I think everybody maybe had the thought in their head that this would be a different business or a separate business, which would not have access, and we wouldn't allow a shared driveway. But if he's got this all as one property, and he has legal frontage on Viking, that could work. The house remains an interim use as it has been. He would dedicate this right away for the future street. I talked to the city engineer about, can we require him to build this? Well, yeah, you could, but it goes nowhere. It serves no benefit, so it would be tough to, I guess, stomach that. It may be worn out by the time you even get this connection. We don't own this land here. He can designate the part on the land he owns, but we have this strip here that's on the nursery property that we don't have control over. Generally speaking, yeah, the city engineer hasn't looked at ponding requirements and such, but if that all works and he's got adequate storage, be a new pond here to the north, which looks like he's proposing it would connect to the pond behind the other storage facility. So could potentially work the way he's got it laid out, at least from a zoning standpoint.
Same material, same look and feel.
Yeah, that was the plan. I can see myself building one of the buildings taller just for boat storage. Just because like most of the time, our units don't facilitate that based on the height.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be more than, I would say, like 1.5 to 2 feet taller. But then we'd have like one building that was designated for taller items, just so we could accommodate certain customers.
Okay.
Why would he have to build this other stormwater pond if he's gonna tie it into this other pond around this other, buildings and stuff here? Why couldn't he just come straight across and tie it right in there right away?
We don't have capacity. If you're referring to the
Yep.
existing pond,
Sure.
or if you're referring to, actually, I can't answer that. On the one near the existing storage facility, I can't comment whether or not that has capacity or what.
Well, right, and that was set up to accommodate, that whole subdivision from the older area. But it's all about, impervious surface and how much area of ponding it is.
I like where Mr. Schiller's at though. I mean, if I didn't have to dig it, that'd be great.
But if you're already tying it to it anyhow, it's all kinda connected, so what do you gain by building this new stormwater pond if you could just come straight across and dump right into there anyhow?
So it's all about capacity, Mr. Schiller, so
Yeah.
when you've got a 100-year or 500-year flood, right, it's gotta hold that temporarily until the ground can accommodate
Two
it.
different things are, basically it's water quality and storage, or I should say, water quality, storage, and rate control. So basically, I mean, you can see how much hard surface he's creating there. You try to put that out through a 24-inch storm sewer, it's gonna be shooting out the next, building next door. But, so that's where you need that place for it to come across the street, dissipate its energy, have all its sediment come out from anybody's tracked sand on the parking lot, that type of stuff. It all settles out in that pond. Before it goes into that one, it's more of a waterway that does have its own, a little more of its own flow more as well too. So basically, he's treating his own sediment, giving a place for his own sediment.
Okay, that makes sense. It just makes that piece of property just unusable ever.
Yeah.
If there's a pond there.
Yeah, but it's, the biggest thing is the rate control and the sediment.
Oh, that makes sense.
Stormwater ponds, for the most part, in a development like that, they should almost be, when they're 20 years old, they should probably get in there and clean them out. A lot of cities now have requirements that, well, like in,
That's what they're doing in Orno right now.
what's that?
That's what they're doing in Orno right now.
Yeah, we do it, like in Otsego, all their ponds in their city, they kind of rotate and they map the bottom of their ponds all the time, see which ones are filling in, where they need to take out sediment that's accumulating.
So my question is that proposed stormwater, that would then cover both phases? There wouldn't have to be another one done up later on?
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's what I
I'm
was
an
hoping
engineer,
for.
So I didn't size it, but.
No, I didn't know if that's what they
I'm
did.
making the assumption that it would be capacity for, future sites.
Okay.
The thing is too, is that to dig one of those ponds, you have to do it, when they're in wetter areas, you have to, in the soil that we're in there, you would have to do that like almost in the winter time to get that done, otherwise you'd never actually be able to grade it, right, because you can't get a machine in there, right? Logistically, it won't, it's not ideal. So I wouldn't have a chance to even probably go back a second time, you know what I mean? If it was in winter, yes, but anyways,
Okay.
So my only other comment was, he's crossing this wetland here, ditch, whatever. So we'd have to look at that, whether it's an impact or no impact.
Yeah, you might need to mitigate for that, or, Build a bridge.
Yep.
Build a bridge?
Well, there's currently a culvert that, goes through there now. I don't believe that the culvert's probably the correct size. But I don't believe that we're doing anything, you know what I mean? Other than maybe impacting it by like, I would say maybe like 3 feet by like 4 feet on each side, so maybe 24 square feet or something like that. I'm just guessing.
Yeah. How big is the culvert that's in there?
I would assume it's like a 12 to 16 inch.
Was that all it is? Oh,
I think so. I
okay.
never actually measured it myself, but
Yeah.
maybe we could verify.
I didn't know how big of a ditch that's running through there, so.
It's really narrow, you know, the long.
Okay.
I don't know if you can use the de minimis rule for a commercial driveway or not, but, just meaning if it's a small amount of fill, it's a lesser permitting process, easier with the LGU and such.
Yeah, I think that's what we did on the last
Oh,
phase.
okay.
Right, get your road width in there, didn't you? Have to do something?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. How long ago did you do that one?
I don't know, was that
7?
3 or 4 years?
19?
No.
Spring of 19?
Was it?
Yeah. Wasn't
Yeah.
I think you got your approvals in 18.
Yeah, I think it was like, we actually opened July like 14th of 19. Yep, we had approvals 18th, and then
Okay.
started late winter, early spring.
So what do you need from us on this?
Yeah, good question.
Like it, hate it, thoughts?
Uh,
Well,
He
actually,
said he's gonna do roughly the same thing as before for exterior, and
Yeah.
they're roughly the same size.
And just looking at phase 2 really is all he's looking at building right now.
Yeah,
I guess the other question is, when can we ever get a road put in there?
yeah, it's a lot of road.
I think the road, you know, is dependent or contingent on what develops to the west, right?
Right.
So at this point, I'm reserving right away and whatnot for it,
Mhm,
and when the time comes, the space will be there at a minimum.
mhm. Fine with
If it
that.
ever does.
Yeah.
Things could change, you know, you never know.
Okay.
well, you want that full intersection on 22 though.
You don't ever know what's gonna happen to that piece of property to the west though.
True.
What's that, Rob?
I say you never know what's gonna happen on this piece of property to the west. You know, so if that road ever goes in, who knows?
Well, that's why when we did the comp plan, we should have designated it industrial. And then, I mean, right now, somebody could come in and develop it residentially.
No, I don't see a problem with that.
You're hardly gonna see it.
I know, right?
But you're gonna get this whole thing, the second and third phase are all gonna be approved all at the same time, correct? That he doesn't have to come back for the third phase, I suppose?
Well, potentially, yeah, we could do well, no, I don't guess you can't, because you gotta have that house on a separate lot, so.
But couldn't we have it just contingent upon the house being demolished or moved out?
Well, then you gotta combine the lots later, which I guess wouldn't be a big deal. Or the road would have to be built. Yeah, we could maybe condition it upon that. But you'll have to go through another lot split now.
A lot line adjustment, right? It's not actually a lot split, it's a lot line adjustment.
It's still a subdivision, but yeah, we'd adjust the lot line. Yeah, let me think about that. I think it might work.
Liz, what was, because concerns with the fire department before, was that just having enough room for a turnaround? Is that what the problem was, or what?
They wanted a hammerhead.
Hammerhead.
And that's why we added one to
To the-
that hammerhead to the right of the pointer isn't existing right now. If you look down the
Okay.
driveway,
Yeah,
to the right.
close to 22.
Yeah.
Are they gonna need something back farther where those new buildings are going? Or will they have enough room in there?
I was gonna reposition the gate, just so I only had one gate for the facility versus two.
Mhm.
So I was gonna rotate the gate 90 degrees. So.
Like right here?
No,
actually
down
further
by-
back, so
Oh,
it would
here.
accommodate both phases. If you go
Going to the
right,
south,
Oh, this way.
keep going south,
Yeah,
south, south.
there's actually a little, even further south.
Yep, right there. Right?
Yeah,
Right in there?
ish, yeah, roughly right there.
Yep.
Oh, I see, okay.
So
Well, yeah.
one gate access all three properties?
Yeah.
Correct.
So then you're saying the fire truck could go around all the buildings in the back or something like that and get themselves in and out?
Well,
Or
yeah,
turn in there somewhere in the front?
you gotta make sure you can turn this radius here.
Yeah, we would provide a diagram or concept plan that would,
Show,
they have like fire truck, simulations, or fire truck simulations, excuse me.
okay, yeah.
I think it looks fine. Barry?
In your other subdivision, what are the two lines between the buildings in there?
Oh, here,
Yeah,
Those are,
the
they're
drain,
concrete, gutters, essentially, or.
okay, just help drainage because the buildings are so long?
Yeah, you can't, essentially you can't, pitch asphalt as accurately as you can concrete.
Right.
So the idea is to do a,
Concrete swale,
yeah.
Trench
It's a
drain thing?
3 foot. It's not a
Yeah.
trench
just a
drain.
valley gutter so that
It's a
you're,
valley gutter, yeah.
it's easier, then you can pave up to that, easier to put your pavement into it and,
Okay,
and those you can run a lot flatter to carry the water.
okay.
You'd be probably doing that on the same on the other ones?
Yeah, most likely, I mean, it all just depends on the style that we do, and it's really up to the engineer for the most part to make all
Okay.
the elevations work, so.
Do those work kind of well, or do you have trouble with plowing?
Yeah, I think so, I mean, the other thing too is that if water does sit on, it doesn't deteriorate, concrete like it would asphalt, right?
Yeah.
So, I think that's the other part of the reason
How,
behind it,
how wide do you have them?
3 feet.
It's a good hidden away place for it.
It is. You're not gonna see them.
You're not gonna see it any more than you see it now, right?
Right.
Right.
So.
okay.
Okay, do we have to send,
There's no motion for that.
document, do we have to send this to the city council?
No, not a concept.
Not a concept, okay?
We're gonna try to figure it out so you can get approval for both phases at one shot.
Yeah, we'll try to figure that out.
Do you have any more questions for us?
No, do you have any questions for me?
Well, it looks good, what you're gonna do there. Oh. Number 4 here is a reminder of the special planning and zoning meeting next Thursday night at 7 PM to consider IUP and a variance application for Rick Sonnenberg for 15430 199th Avenue Northwest. So that'll be next Thursday night at 7 o'clock. And we're waiting for one more motion. Somebody like to make it?
I made a motion to adjourn.
There you go, I'll second it.
And Commissioner Alder seconded. All in favor, say aye.
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 Yeah, I forgot,
Well, I never seen you speak up so fast there, Carol.